Hello guys, and welcome back to this very special Kiev Cultural Changemaker special. I'm of course your host and founder of the Interpreting Wine podcast, Lawrence Francis. And while I'm based in London, traveling and uncovering great new places is really part of who I am. And one of my biggest discoveries of the last year has been the city of Kiev, capital of Ukraine. This series of 9 interviews was recorded in October 2018 and in March 2019, and I hope captures a sense of not only what's happening in the food and drink scene, touching as it does on wine and local cuisine, but also captures a sense of where the city is heading through design, music and cultural change. And I hope that if you or anybody you know is planning to visit to the city, you'll use this series as an audio guide, both to discover fantastic places to eat and drink, and also understand some of the wider cultural context. So here we go, today's episode of the Kiev Cultural Changemaker Special. Today's episode of the Kiev Cultural Changemaker Special features Vasily Grogol of BURSA Hotel, Kiev. For the reasons that you'll hear in the interview, BURSA Kyiv is a destination for just about every one of the 24 hours of a day. We hear from Vasily his origin story. He then takes us inside the BURSA concept and room design before looking ahead to future additions to the BURSA group. Enjoy.
I started working when I was pretty young. So it was like I started working when I was 14. I was working as a bar, like not a bar back and like runner and everything, like as a waiter, and a bunch of all these cool jobs when you're young. I changed a lot of places, so I worked like in Moscow, worked in Berlin, lived in Czech Republic, worked there as well, and then everything was good, and I finished high school in Berlin, and then there was no other kind of like way or choice. Not I mean like choice, but like I saw myself going into hospitality, but a little bit more in a sort of like a professional incline. Mm-hmm. And that's why like I've researched and I found this school in Switzerland, what was like pretty good one as I thought, and pretty international. I went there for an open day, and I loved it. And the school was called Glion, if you might know it, might not. It's a Glion. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's not that I'm promoting it or something, but it's a good school, I think. Yeah. And I went there and spent some time studying there. I had a few internships in between, and flew to Czech Republic again to work in the hotel. Flew to Shanghai to work there as a bartender. It was like a bartender, bar manager more. And then, and then I graduated and started moved to New York and lived there for a few years. Lived there working for a small boutique hotel company, which was pretty cool. And I got the job because I was making my thesis statement, and it was all about New York and hospitality there, and so basically about real estate and how hospitality and art has shaped it, and blah blah blah. It was pretty cool. That's why I've flown to New York to get some like interviews with the like CEOs of the companies and like some general managers. And while I was collecting this basically all the interviews for my thesis statement, I got the job from one of those guys, you know. So and that's how my thing started in New York. And then this company was only like kind of building and managing small boutique hotels in on Manhattan, and one in LA and then in Miami. So it's really something I loved. So it's like boutique, small, really like local and art cautious, you know. And then I also got to meet the CEO of Standard Hotels, which has really influenced me, and I'm a huge fan of Standard Hotels. And in general, like, and I mean, New York was a kind of like a turning point for me, and then I got to I had an opportunity to create a feasibility study for the hotel in Kiev, and the concept study. Basically, that was my main kind of subject that that was my university mains thing, so basically like my kind of how do you say that, like thesis or diploma, I don't know, my program was was called real estate and revenue management and hospitality industry, something like this. So basically it's like all the mathematics that go together with hospitality, and that's that's why what I do as well, I do models which are for the hotels and for the hotels investors to see whether the investment is going to be liquid and it's actually going to be a working business, because hotel is it's a big investment always, and it's a kind of classical investment. It doesn't bring you a direct return. It's not an app or an IT company. So you need to really put into consideration a lot of small details and factors in order to create an accurate model which is going to be interesting for the investor. That's what I do basically, and that's why I did that. And I always combine it with the concept, because for me the feasibility cannot go without the concept and the idea and the some sort of local background to it. And I started doing that 6 months before I actually moved to Ukraine. And then I've never been to Kiev before, so I just I got a backpack. I finished the study, and I had to come to Kiev to present it to investor, and to okay, that is done. You can build a hotel now here. That is the concept. You just need a project manager and blah 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 blah. And I was fuck, that looks good, and and I never went back to New York basically. So I didn't even pick up my shit before you could beep it later, and so I basically just went back to New York 3 months later to pick up my stuff and moved completely basically here. And that's it. We started building everything, and in year and 4 or 5 months we opened up.
There's so many different strands there. There's so much that's standing out for me. I've written a load of things down here, and that there are multiple questions that I could ask here. But I think being as we're sitting here in Kiev, we're sitting here in the hotel, I feel like that's the next place where I really like to sort of take it. And I'm sure as interesting to the investors and as necessary and as important it was the investment side of things, but I think where I want to go is actually more on the concept side of things. And given that we've taken a little walk through, I don't know what percentage of the hotel here, but a part of it, seeing the cafe, seeing the entrance, and seeing the area. I wonder if you just sort of, for the listeners, paint them a sort of an auditory picture here of the hotel, and what are those concepts that you thought were so important to put forward, and then how have they materialized in the real world?
Thank you. So basically, we can go back a little bit and just I can explain, because for me many things kind of matter, in order to explain something. I always like to go back and not to jump straight to the concept. So basically, the name of the hotel you're in right now is BURSA, and the term BURSA, the word BURSA, it comes from French, and it's bourse, bourserie. It's just a pocket or wallet. And it's was actually called back in France in beginning of the 18th century. There was student communes, and they were called bourses because they were financed by the private investors, philanthropists. Yeah. So basically, there were actual buildings where students used to live, and they were accepted to higher education. There was bourses, but then this the same concept of bursas was taken over in Ukraine, and bursas also were in Ukraine, the same name. The student communes where a student of the Kiev Theological University were living. The Kiev Theological University was one of the first higher education facilities in the entire Empire Russia back in the days. And like those guys who were like the actual like inhabitants of bursas, I mean, their life was uneasy, you know, like, and they had to really fight for it sometimes, you know, and because there was always lack of financing and everything, and so they were actually forced to go out on the streets and do some like musical or theatrical shows to collect some money or everything, and they had this like fame of being those super like at one side educated, and the other side this kind of like poor but really cool kind of crowd, you know, from like those guys from Bursa. And Bursas was also like why they would still do that, you know, why they would still go to Bursas, you know, although it was like kind of like living in bad conditions and everything else, because it was the only way for like village boys, you know, to get out from the village life, you know, like, and to actually get education and become something more, become something bigger, you know, and like without any support in the city, you know, in Kiev, you know, like that was impossible, you know, like, so that's why Bursas were kind of like the way to a different life for them. Okay, yeah. And I mean, you ask anybody like in Ukraine what is Bursa, they would have like two connotations basically, you know, like one it would be like this one, what I'm talking about, and the other one would be, I mean, the haircut that I have, for example, you know, everybody would say that's like bursak, you know, that's like a traditional Bursa student haircut, and the second connotation is like the Bursas that were also education facilities back in the Soviet Union. So Bursas were actually like, let's say so, like craft schools. Do you know what's Bauhaus?
It's a design school, isn't it? From
sort of.
Germany.
Yeah, let's say so. Yeah, let's say so. It's like, it's really more or less accurate. Basically, like Bauhaus, and why I'm talking about, because this is like a link that we draw between these two. So basically, Bursas in Ukraine and art and craft school, let's say so, you know. And Bauhaus was like the actual, like, you know, like the also arts and craft school in Germany in like 1920s. And actually Bauhaus created design, let's say so, you know, because design was created during that time and by the people who were teachers and students there. And Bauhaus like wasn't the University of Arts, because it was not about art mostly. It was about art of crafts. So people would study there like the craft of like you know, like working with fabric, working with wood, working with metal, like creating like theatrical you know, costumes and stuff like that, you know. So it's like to create this design, you know, because what is design? Do you know what's design?
Well, I have my idea, I guess, about what is design.
Yeah. What is that?
Would you like to hear?
Yeah. Like a short, something short.
Something short.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Design, what we see around us. Yeah. 5 words.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. I'm not saying I'm. But
I wanted to add on another bit, but yeah, I tried to keep it up to 7 words.
But like, as I understand design, for example, you know, it's something. First of all, design is mass production. That's the most important about understanding what is design, because design was created when a big manufactory employed an artist who started working on producing mass products for like using the art techniques, let's say so, you know. You know what I mean? Because before when actual design was created, or like any they were like, you know, like the there were artists who would create like a beautiful chairs or beautiful like like they would paint the walls nicely, but there was not mass production or something,
It wasn't replicable.
It wasn't replicable, yeah.
Okay.
So, and art is sort of considered to be like this breaking point, like yeah. So basically, like, and the Bauhaus was kind of like the beginning of everything, what's like we consider design right now. And what is also important about Bauhaus, that like one of the principles was functionality. So basically, function prescribes the form, and that's like kind of like the words we took for Bursa as our, like, let's say, like credo or something. Function prescribes the form. And another one by Miss van der Rohe, less is more. This is like our main kind of two things, So function, like form that is prescribed by function is in everything what we did in terms of design. So first of all, we're set here in like now we're sitting in a building that was constructed in 1818, so it's exactly 200 years old. And but it's part. The actual hotel consists of 4 buildings, which we have combined together. And one of them is 1856. Another one was like a new constructed building. Another one is 1818, and another one is also a new one. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like forms like a P shape. So basically, for us, it was a challenge in terms of like combining old and new, and that's what you kind of see. It's like combining old and new, but not like going into too much new, not going too much into old, and then also like using as less as possible. Like a good example is we have a conference room downstairs. Like you might see it like when we pass by, but I draw the parallel between a kitchen and like a typical kitchen. There was actually like the first, I don't know how to say it. Like you have a kitchen at home, right? You know how it looks, right? It has like a lot of drawers, right? Yeah. You have a lot of drawers. You have a lot of like little like cabinets, all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah, because it's like a function kitchen, let's say so. Yeah. And so the first kitchen like this with like small little drawers and like little like cabinets was created at Bauhaus, for by one of the students. She was a woman, and she designed it especially for one kind of like a district in Berlin. It was like a typical like housing and everything. And so with this thing, she actually revolutionized the way, kitchen were perceived and used by like many women and men who were cooking, So she took the problem of like women spending way too much time in the kitchen because she has it's very unorganized and not like close to herself. So she has to run the kitchen all the time. So she just placed it all in one place, like which she would just spend like few seconds of like getting salt and getting other products. It was all in like different cabinets. And that was the first kitchen. It's function that prescribes the form. Okay. So basically, we tried to use it as much as possible in everything we did. And in our conference room, you enter it, and it's just like it's like a white rectangular, but. On one side, like on two sides, it's like like these are like hidden cabinets, and there's like a sound protected ceiling with like a sound system that you can't see, with a projector, blah blah blah, and the screen. So everything is there, but you barely see it, because it's all kind of like hidden from your eyes, but very comfortable and everything. And our rooms and everything, we try to think as much as possible about that as well. So yeah, that's kind of like. That's our that's a little bit about the concept of like what is Bursa from one side, the historical part, another part Bursa for the education facility back in USSR, and relation to Bauhaus, and Bauhaus relation to our kind of main credos of our hotel. Room design, it was made by the now really good friend of mine. I think the coolest interior designer and architect in Ukraine, Slava Balbek. He's an insanely cool guy, and basically we tried to do as much as possible in Ukraine. like to produce everything local. All our wardrobes, our tables, our like side tables that are next to the bed, and our beds, everything is made in Ukraine. And also this, what are you sitting right now, is also made in Ukraine. Like those, how do you say it? It's a sofa, armchairs, and like sofas. And so it's really minimalistic. It's like the walls are white, and we have like some really let's say so like intensive colors, which are like little like brush strokes, you know. Like you'll have like a white room with like some really cool like carpets, which are like gonna be like contrast. You know, we have like all kinds of different carpet colors, which are really simple. They're like green or blue or like black or like something like gray, and then some yellow, you know. And then we'll have like those brush strokes of like our bathrooms. They have like 9 or 10 different colors of bathrooms. There's yellow, there's blue, there's dark blue, there's like pink, there's what else? Yeah, there's a bunch, you know. They're actually like 3 shades of pink, which I really like. And then yeah, and it's like we have different, like most of the rooms are different, you know, just because, you know, there are 4 buildings and there's no like practically like standard floor plan, and there are only 3 floors, so it's like, you know, the rooms are different and they're all different colors, all different shapes and different sizes. The rooms go from like 100 square meters down to like 20 meters, and like you have room with like a balcony and like a 4-meter ceiling, and then like a smaller rooms next to the mezzanine with like also like smaller windows and more cozier kind of feel when you're like next to the mezzanine. You'll have like rooms with like you know, like standalone bathtub. Do you say it like that?
Yeah, like
freestanding bathtub, right? Yeah. Freestanding bathtub in the middle of the room, and yeah, all kinds of stuff like that. We have a room with a little sauna as well, so and a fireplace, and you can chill there as well for like a nice weekend getaway in Kiev, you know. Yeah. In general, like we are like, as to say, like in a nutshell, you know, like we're a 33-bedroom hotel with like a with a rooftop bar, which like during the summer it's like super. I think it's a super cool place to hang out, you know. It's like has 2 terraces of 200 square meters, and like with a capacity of hosting like 250 people, all like and now like during the winter times it got to be like I think like one of the coolest spaces to hang out during the weekend, because we were throwing the parties like with like rap, and like it was just like packed by people, and everybody just like boo boo boo. Yeah, it's like yeah, whatever. Yeah, like we have a rooftop bar, which is like and then we have a city cafe where you were waiting for me. And city cafe is just a city cafe. It's like a super like a place for everyone, for a place for like to have a you know, earliest morning coffee, because we're one of the only places in Kiev that open at 7 a.m., you know, because they're like, I mean, you can go like maybe 4 or 5 in general, you know, and normal places where you can grab a good coffee in the morning. You can go there like in the evening for the business meeting or for a date or something, and during the lunch, for the lunch, you know, and there's like a takeaway desserts and like snacks and everything. So it's like it's a place for everybody. It has no concept, because it's just a city cafe for everybody, you know, for any concept, with tasty food and like low key prices. And then we have an art gallery, which is called BURSA Gallery, which is in the basement. And that's the DNA of our concept as well, because and what else? Like we have a little design, like a clothing design store on the first floor, and a little conference room. And you're sitting in the library right now, which is like which is actually only for the guest of the hotel or the friends of the guest of the hotel, because it's always supposed to stay quiet. And I mean, you can work here during the day, and you can like read a book or order a glass of wine here, but there'll be no. You can play piano if you want, if you know how to, you know, and like And that's it. That's the library, basically. It's only for the guests, and it's like we call it extended lobby or something, you know. So we don't want a guest to have like a hustle. So it's a hustle-free place, hustle-free space. Yeah.
That rhymes.
Yeah.
As you just said, thanks so much for kind of weaving that story together. I think that there's something there that you communicated about that's going to reach and I think touch a lot of people. And as I always do, I just invite you to kind of look ahead. Whatever it is that you're looking ahead to, looking forward to, you're excited about. Open question.
Sure. I mean, in general, I want more and more people to be coming to Kiev. Because I really fell in love with this city, and I think it's great, and I think it has a lot of potential, and a lot of young, energetic people, and in terms of but at the same time, the city has a lot of problems, and I'm sorry to use your podcast for some social stuff here, but I think it's good. No, but I really do believe I'm a foreigner who moves in this city. And I'm bringing like foreigner money here, to invest into something, And I want more people like me to do that. And I want more hotels. And I don't mind. I want more hotels here, easy peasy. They should be, creating like supply, creating more demand, creating more jobs, and boosting economy through private investments. That's my kind of like sort of social speech right now. But coming back to what my company, which my company is called BURSA Kyiv. So it's BURSA Kyiv, atelier, and we are doing we're working on a few other projects, working on one in Kiev at the moment. So it's another hotel, another small boutique hotel, but not that small, a little bit bigger. Different target segments, different location, and then we're working another hotel in Lviv, so we slowly are. I want to kind of put my dirty hands on all the biggest cities in Ukraine and slightly go across the border, basically. I want my next destination to be Athens, Greece, and then God knows where. Basically, it's like Athens and that's the hospitality, like hotels. We mix it with dorms and like stuff like that, and it's really like new luxury kind of style that we're all kind of offering and stand for. And also we're also doing and part of the team is working on the co-working part of the game. So we're mixing, because for me it's always important to have I hate the concept of all-inclusive hotels in Turkey or something like this, Turkey is just an example, just an all-inclusive hotel where guys just come and but what I'm creating right now is also an all-inclusive hotel, but a new luxury all-inclusive hotel sort of thing, So it's a new approach to the city and to hotels in general, because that's not just a place where you come to drop your bones in the evening, We're creating destination. Basically, you come here because you sleep here, you come here because you want to have lunch, because you have a meeting here, because you work here. That's what I want to do. So it's it's a center of some energy, some creative force and everything, That's here people come to work. Yeah, people come to see art at the BURSA gallery. They come to hang out during the evening and they just get drunk at the 1818 and they come hang over during the morning to have something. It's and they sleep here. And it's that's what I want to do in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Vasily. It was an absolute pleasure sitting down with you. And it's great to be able to share with the listener a deeper understanding of what is a stunning space you've created in Kiev. Do be sure to check out below the website and main social media handles for BURSA. And as we've reached the halfway point of the Kiev Cultural Changemaker special, if you've enjoyed what you've heard so far, it would mean the world to me if you'd hop onto iTunes and leave me a review. 5-star reviews with comments are obviously very welcome, but I'd absolutely love to hear what you think of the series. Next time in the series, in episode 314, I sit down with restaurant entrepreneur Dmitro Borisov. See you then.